Yes, so I am something so very unusual as a very passionate humanist that is in the very heart of tech. And I am especially glad to be here at Women in Tech today because this is something that is very close to my heart. So great. Really glad you invited me.
Thank you so much. And we also have a second Pernilla Wikman from Telia, Head of Global Business. If you just want to say a few words.
Yeah. Hi guys, and great to see you. And it's I can continue what Pernilla just said, that I'm also a humanist in the tech world and here to actually create a more human organization. How do we utilize tech? So I'm really looking forward to this minutes of discussion with you.
Excellent. And last but not least in the panel, Therese Treutiger from Microsoft. She's Director Commercial Partner and Innovation. Welcome, Therese.
Thank you, Anastasia. And I think three of us at least, we have something in common, and we have all been working for Telia for some time. So I've also spent some time with the telco industry. I'm really looking forward to this session, and I really am a believer of tech bringing and helping us solving a lot of societal issues.
Thanks a lot. So before we jump into discussions with this great panel, I thought of giving you some short snapshots of 5 quite exciting future tech trends that we at EY discuss with our global clients. So if you're ready, we'll start with the first one and we will show some slides. The first one is 5G. And as you might know, the 5G business is picking up. And right now it's estimated that we have about 200 million 5G subscribers in the world. And actually as much as 1 billion people have 5G coverage. A really interesting market here is South Korea, probably the most advanced market in the world. They have good country coverage and the data usage has really started to increase. We see this data growth mainly on virtual reality and augmented reality, of course starting from a fairly low level. And then we have content in general. It has actually gone up with 3.5 times. And gaming has also increased quite a bit. In South Korea, we also see some interesting industry applications that have evolved. For example, the operator SK Telecom is working together with Munghwa Industries, and they're using 5G AI machine vision to really monitor the factory quality. They have these 12 million pixel cameras along the conveyor belts that can spot any defect right away. Another example is Nissan Cars and the operator Docomo. They're today using 5G to enhance the traffic safety. And what they do is that they merge a lot of different data sources to let the drivers virtually see around the corners. And in that way, dramatically promote the traffic safety. So the second trend today is something called quantum computing. And IBM claims that the decade of the 2020s is really when commercial quantum computers will take off. So we have maximum 9 years to go, which is quite exciting. These quantum computers, they are extremely fast computers, and Google's processor can perform a specific task in 200 seconds that would take the world's best supercomputer 10,000 years to complete. And these quantum computers, they could transform medicine research, such as, for example, the development of vaccines that we need a lot today. They could also revolutionize AI. But on the dark side of this, they could also crack bank security and even the public internet security. So there is now a race among nations and companies for being the leader in this quantum technology. The US is today seen as the leader, but we believe China is not very far behind in this. And there are still some practical problems for quantum computers. since most of them need to be cooled down to minus 273 degrees for these quantum bits to work. And this, of course, limits the practical use, at least today. But these quantum computers, they are incredibly powerful since they use the physical benefit of the quantum particles. And these tiny, tiny particles, they are really amazing because they don't at all follow the laws of physics as we know them in the normal world. So I think this is an interesting trend to keep an eye on for at least the coming 10 years. Then going to the third trend, please. If we switch the slides, we have DNA storage. And DNA storage technology, this enables the storage of enormous amounts of data for thousands of years in a very, very small space, and also in a less corruptible form. And this works by encoding the binary data into the base pairs of synthetic DNA. So 1 single gram of DNA could store all the knowledge generated by humans in 1 year. And all the data in the world could be stored in the size of a shoebox. So this is extremely dense data. And as you know, we are every year collecting more and more data. So it is likely that within the coming 5 years, most of the digital businesses will at least initiate some trials on DNA storage, addressing this exponential growth of data that we see around the globe. But this trend is actually believed to fix something that the industry is struggling with today. And then we go to the fourth trend, and that is digital twin of the Earth. You might know digital twin application. They are becoming quite mainstream in industry right now. And there is now an initiative in the EU for quite an ambitious digital twin of our globe. And this initiative is called Destination Earth. What this would do is to really simulate the atmosphere, the ocean, the ice masses, and also the land masses, providing us quite detailed forecasts of floods, of droughts and fires from both days ahead to even years ahead of time. This Destination Earth will also attempt to capture the human behavior, showing us really the impact of weather events on society and also the effect of the different climate policies that are implemented in different places. So a digital twin of the Earth would give us a view of how the climate is changing around the globe and also how pollution would be traveling from place to place, really. The Destination Earth model will generate a massive amount of data, and this will, of course, demand also a very large processing capacity. But then, luckily enough, in the future, we will have the quantum computers and also the DNA storage that I talked about before. So my last trend for today, that is, of course, 6G that we had on the agenda. And you know, even if we're just launching 5G now in Sweden, there is already a plan at least for 6G. Samsung has announced that 6G standards can be ready for commercial launch in year 2028 and start to gain somewhat commercial coverage by 2030. If you believe that 5G is here to really connect everything, then 6G is believed to let everything loose. The enormous speed and the low latency will actually enable direct connection between different units. Projections and holograms will replace the need for a screen, and the images will probably be projected in the dust in the air. The technical specification is not fully finalized yet, but 6G is believed to be about 150 times faster than 5G. And you know, 5G is already quite fast. I think Pernilla Jonsson has a special session on this if you want to know more about 6G later on today. So those were all my trends. And my lovely panel is coming up now. I have tried from EY side to give a little bit of a small hint on what we believe will be cooking in the tech development the coming 5 to 10 years. It is, of course, quite difficult to really know what development will really take off. But it would be really interesting to see from your horizon what you are betting your money on for the tech development. Should we maybe here start from the operator side with Pernilla from Telia? What do you believe in for the years to come?
Yeah, thank you, Anastasia, for the trends, first of all. And I think if we all go back a year when we were at Women and Tech, I think that none of us actually could foresee the year to come, 2020. So that is the first thing that I want to bring into this, like my answer. Like it's pretty hard to foresee because it goes pretty rapidly right now. But what I think for us, of course, you mentioned where to start actually with the 5G. Of course, that is something that is important. And 6G, and Pernilla will probably talk about that even more, even if it is a decade ahead, right? But it will also give us completely new opportunities when we're talking about what is then 5D. Now we're talking about 3D, and that is interesting. But I think like a trend that I foresee too, that I think is important to bring into this is really the value of everything that technology brings in. We need to create it much more connected to us as humans, and both to us as the planet, but also from a people perspective, so we really get use of it. And that I think is a trend that we will see more and more about the usability of technology. So how do we actually use it smarter?
Absolutely, that is very important, definitely.
Because it comes to change. I think it comes a lot into change, right? About how do our mindset, or how is the mindset and our system of doing way of working, setting up business and so on, how is that following the technology development? So that is like a trend that I would like to see going beside the technology.
Yeah, definitely. And if we then go to the supplier side, and Pernilla from Ericsson, you must be dealing a lot with all these technologies, but what's your best bet on the big trends?
Well, at Ericsson Research, we actually have 10 technology trends or driving forces that we see influence the direction towards 2030. And what's really interesting with this, and here I quote my wonderful boss, Magnus Frodig, who is the head of Ericsson Research, is that it's not one single of these trends that is more important than the other, but rather it's actually the combination of these that creates totally new possibilities that is hard to imagine today. And he always says that the development is going to be exponential. And I just love that, because that's what it's really about. And if you combine trends like this together, it totally kind of changes the prerequisites for how we do computing, for instance, and stuff like that. Quantum is a fantastic example of that, right? However, just like Pernilla V was stating, I am very passionate about the business side of this. And I think that one thing that this pandemic has really shown us, and I will talk more about this later, is the limitations of the screen age. I mean, it's lovely to be here with you all over a screen, but it's a little bit like talking, I see you three lovely ladies, but the other ones, you are not, visual to me. And it is this social interactions and how we are as humans that really determine what value we can capture from tech. And that dimension is so important. So I fully agree. I think that business development and technology research needs to go hand in hand in this. That's what makes the really new innovations and new value come forward.
Yeah, very, very wise. Especially now, maybe in the Corona times where we really don't meet. It's a very flat screen, I think. I completely agree with you, Pernilla. Then we have Microsoft with behind the teams that we always sit on nowadays.
Yes.
Great to hear from you, Therese. What do you think about the tech future development?
Now, we usually just to chip in on what you're saying, Pernilla V and Pernilla J, also about the corona and the COVID-19 that we have just passed for more than 1 year. We say usually that we digitalize Sweden in 7 days, and we can definitely see a digital loop. How we are using technology as individuals right now, and how we also are getting much more used to using technology as a daily way of our work. But when we look into the Microsoft as one of the largest tech companies in the world, what we can see is a different kind of technology trends. But one of the major, I would say, trends is that data technology has become friendly users and also accessible for so many more organizations and companies. That was more a hidden treasure for some of the IT operational resources and research institutes, and now it's become much more accessible, like AI, for example. And that is part of our daily work. And that is also, just to come back to what you are referring to, Anastasia and Pernilla, and that is also that what we can see, and I think that is the latest year where we have the business, and the business are using technology in their processes and their business and solution development, and that is a total new way of working. And one of examples and inspiration of the resources where we are investing a lot, and that is in the virtual reality. And I'm not sure I would like to call it any longer virtual reality, because it's more real reality. And it's not just for gaming, but you can have a lot of inspiration from the gaming sector. It's also from the industry now that are using 3D virtual reality, the HoloLens feature in the service operations, how they've been in the sourcing and the buying process of clothes, for example. So it's used in our daily way of processes, and that is really a new way of working, and it's a mega trend, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Much looking forward to that, the Microsoft new virtual reality.
Yes.
And interesting, I think, that all of you stressed usability in the new technology, and also, of course, the business side of technology. That is, of course, also important driving factors. But now, so moving into more the 5G development, and we have recently seen these 5G licenses being sold for quite vast amounts of money here in Sweden and also in the rest of the world. Many operators are now, of course, intensively thinking of how to launch the best 5G services that will bring in the revenues to offset this investment. What is your opinion of the best 5G services that will commercially take off? Maybe we start with Ericsson in this case, since you have a global view of what's cooking in the 5G world.
Yes, so we have actually been following the global consumers' attitudes and valuation towards 5G for quite a few years now, even when 5G didn't really exist as a product in the market. And what we could see is that consumers are aware of 5G to a much larger extent than we thought. Even in our first survey, we could see that almost 7 out of 10 were actually aware that 5G was coming. What I think is really interesting is that we have had quite a high willingness to pay for 5G, but it comes with two demands, so to speak. So first of all, the network quality needs to be good enough, so that you get really a 5G quality and not 4G quality when you connect. And the second thing is the exciting new services and applications that are 5G unique. And you talked about Korea a little bit earlier, and this is what we see there. What they have done, which is really interesting, is that they have launched 5G with a lot of what we call mixed reality then services. And that includes AR, VR, but all of this 3D internet. And we can also see that when we measure what use cases consumers are most interested in and willing to pay for, it's the 3D internet, XR our services that comes first. And it's also something that we see in our studies. We launched a big study on the 5G consumer potential, and there we can also see this pattern reoccurring. So it's a reoccurring story. And we see these services actually happening in the market. And I will actually bring up a few examples a little bit later today then, that are so cool and that really shows you the enormous potential for innovation that we get when we go into this new paradigm, because it's a new paradigm. It's not just like it's one service, or it's a totally new way of using the internet. And it's not going to come right away because it's about the ecosystem evolving. It's the networks, it's the cloud edge, it's the devices, and it's the applications and services running on top of that. And also that the operators get those services out there so we get this going. And we can actually see that we got a little bit of a slump in the consumers' willingness to upgrade and pay for 5G during the pandemic, but that has actually, according to the very fresh data coming in right now, coming back. So consumer intention to upgrade is actually rising on a global level. And I think it's a direct result of how important connectivity has been to keep our everyday lives together during the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a very good cliffhanger, Pernilla, about you will talk about the real 5G services later on today. That's great. Moving on to the operator side, we're of course interested to hear from Telia. What's the killer apps in 5G on your horizon?
Yeah, but I think first of all, Pernilla explained it extremely well. It's about a digital fundamental infrastructure that we will see so many different type of services, and we have also explored, even if we are building it out now in Sweden, right? But we have explored it for the last 5 years to actually with in co-creation, because that is how it happens, right? So I think we are exploring, and I think we will see different type of killer apps, if we call it like that. But something that I would like to, because often when we talk about, you asked about what are the profitable services, I think that is like the thing I would like to bring out with this new type of digitalization, with this new mobile network, is the potential that we do have to actually become more profitable in different ways, like when it comes to healthcare, about bringing the crowd insight and the data sources so we can predict things. We have one thing, it's maybe not, but I would say it's a very profitable project that we are running now. It's when we are doing this kind of mammography that is out in the northern part of Sweden. We have you know that around 20% of all women doesn't turn up to do the mammography. And now we actually have the possibility to really drive inclusion. So what is profitability in the new way with this type of digital infrastructure? That I think would be the question regarding what does 5G really bring. But adding to what Pernilla said, is of course also for businesses and the public institutions about how they can start to automate things and how we can use our nature resources in another manner that we haven't been able to do.
Yes,
so I would like to bring. So I don't have this is the number one, Anastasia. But
no, I understand. You know, we have so much to talk about, but our little time slot is really running out here. I wanted to talk to you, Therese, about sustainability as well. Yes. But you know, for all the people, we have down here, we have a small red button, so we can keep on chatting after this time slot is over. But thank you all so much for a very interesting talk with an excellent panel. I'm sending you some virtual flowers here and a big hug. And thank you, the whole audience, for listening today. And don't forget to join us for a small chat on the red button below. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.